Welcome to Mentor Training Session 4, Learning Styles. Before you begin, make sure you have access to your participant materials for Session 4. There's important information that will be referenced in this session, but is only available in the Session 4 participant materials. I'm Judy Corner, the Director of Mentoring and Consulting for an organization called Insala. I will be your host throughout these sessions. In Session 1, Introduction, we identified all 8 of the training sessions that we would cover, including a brief overview of each. Specifically, during Session 4, we will introduce a concept and an exercise to identify an individual's specific learning styles. During this session, we will be discussing the concept of learning styles. This will cover an understanding of the various styles of learning, an exercise to identify your best learning style, how this affects how you communicate and teach your mentee, and what each style means. As always, we will cover tips for assistance as well as questions to ponder. As adults, we tend to communicate with, provide information to, and teach others based on the way that we ourselves learn and best receive information. But since we all learn and process information differently, your learning and communication style may be very different from your mentees. Therefore, it's important to understand your personal learning style so that you can change to better communicate with your mentee. As a YMCA employee, you may have explored learning styles, so we will provide a common language for you and your mentee. There are 8 different learning styles outlined in this methodology: active, reflective, sensing, intuitive, visual, verbal, sequential, and global. In your participant materials, you will find an explanation for each of these various learning styles. Please stop now and take the time to read through them and make a check mark next to what you believe represents your personal learning style. If you feel that you may use many of these styles, you are correct. Based on the situation you're in, you may use any or all of these learning styles at any given time. But when we are presented with new information, when we are presented with complex information, and it may seem complex because it's new, when information is presented to us and we are in a stressful situation, or when we are at all nervous when receiving the information, we will automatically revert to what is called our primary learning style, supported by a secondary learning style. Keep in mind that when you are working with your mentee, you may present them with new information. You may present them with information that may be complex, or it may seem complex because it's new. You may provide the information rather quickly because it's your area of expertise, and your mentee may be a bit nervous. There are a total of 44 questions to complete in this assessment regarding learning styles. Respond to each question with the best first option. Do not overanalyze your answers. When going through the question, determine which answer is best. Go with your first gut feeling. Again, don't overanalyze. Spend a maximum of 8 to 10 seconds per question. Read the question, choose, mark an answer, and go to the next question. Repeat this process with each question. When you complete all the questions, go to the next page and record your results in the spaces provided. At the bottom of the sheet, tally up your marks and read about your best learning style on the subsequent pages. At the end, when you are interpreting your results, first identify the highest number and the learning style which it is under. Read about that type of learning style. Determine if this makes sense to you, and if not, why not? You may look at the next highest number, which indicates a secondary learning style that supports your primary learning style. Read about that style and determine if that supports your primary style. So, why is understanding one's learning style really important? As we mentioned before, as adults, we tend to teach and communicate with others the best way that we best receive information. But again, this may not be the best way for your mentee to learn. Don't get stuck on the titles. We're not so concerned that you indicate that you're a visual learner or a global learner. It's more important that you understand the behaviors related to the styles, not just the names of the learning styles. As an example, if you have a mentee who is an active learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, it's important that they're allowed to do something with it as soon as possible. This ensures that the learning will really take place. If you have a mentee who is a reflective learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, they need to take the time to process the information, to think about it, mull it over, reflect on it. If you have a mentee who's a sensing learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, they need to be presented with the facts and how it relates to and can be practically applied to their work, their life, and so on. If you have an intuitive learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, they want the facts, but then they want to figure out on their own how it will relate to what they do. If you have a visual learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, it's best that it's presented in a way that provides them with a picture of what is meant. If you have a mentee who's a verbal learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, it is best if they can read about it or obtain it through a conversation or lecture type format. They learn best through the words, visual or verbal. If you have a sequential learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, it's best for them to have it presented in a step-by-step logical format. And if you have a mentee who's a global learner, when your mentee receives information or learning, it's best for them to get the big picture first before getting into too many details. So here are some additional tips to maximize learning as you work with your mentee. First of all, communicate your learning style to your mentee. In communicating your learning style to your mentee, you're illustrating that you went through the same learning styles exercise as the mentee. Learn your mentee's learning style. If you understand your mentee's learning style, you can communicate in a manner that will maximize your mentee's learning and understanding. Also, provide examples to your mentee that illustrate you understand their learning style. You know, it's one thing to say you understand your mentee's learning style, but it can be different to put that into practice. Let your mentee provide you with an example of something that they recently needed to learn, and then you provide feedback to them on how you would handle that situation if you were providing the information. This time, we would like for you to think about everything that we have talked about during this session. Take a moment and record your responses to the questions to ponder in your participant materials. If you need any clarification on any of the information provided here, or if you have any questions, please refer to the email listed here, and they can provide you with answers and information. Thank you.